And here it goes, Mike. We've got another episode of More Pain coming to our sponsors exclusively on Subscribestar and Patreon at 8:30 p.m. We've got a little preview right here on YouTube and Periscope and Facebook and all the other platforms. How are you today, Mike?
Good. What's up, Jason? How you doing, man?
I'm doing good. You know, we've got a whole bunch of stuff going down. Now, we've titled today's episode, obviously the image features the CDC there, and there's a load of good information on truepundit.com. What are we going to be talking about for people today?
Well, everybody looks at the CDC in times of this situation now with this new flu situation. Everybody looks at the.
Mike?
Yeah, I'm there. I'm here.
Okay.
You hear me?
Yep.
Yeah. I got calls coming in all freaking day long. It's like it never ends, and everything is, like a scandal. But anyhow, you have this. Everybody looks at the CDC like they have some answers on everything. These guys are a fairly corrupt organization, so most of the media fails to point that out. So tonight I'm going to go over a few things that people need to know. That these guys are basically about a half a step better than the Department of Justice. They're not very good. They're not very good at what they do, and okay, let's say this: they're not good at what they're supposed to do, but they're very good at stealing money,
Right.
and pretending that they're doing something, pretending that they have your best interest in mind, pretending that they're keeping you safe, while they steal money out the back door. Especially in situations like this, they have a brutal history of just graft and corruption. So people even Trump is like, ooh, I'm surrounded by these great people. These are not great people. These are bureaucrats. These are thieves. These are people that will sell their own mother for a nickel, and certainly sell your mother for a nickel when the chips are down. And if they can use some type of a health scare, and I'm not saying this is a health scare, but if they can use it to make money, they will. And the flip side of it is if they can, they have a history of also not making testing available and things like that, and just saying, oh, you just have to go get the shot. You have to go get the,
Vaccine.
vaccine. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Yeah, the testing is too much. And their doctor's saying now, especially in New York City, that there's only a handful of test kits available nationwide a day, and the CDC has been dragging their feet for a long time putting these out. That's because they have a history, especially under the Obama administration and under Hillary Clinton when she was Secretary of State. These guys would just say, "Oh, let's just get the vaccine just to be sure," and and everybody gets kickbacks on the back end. Does that make any sense?
Well, it makes a ton of sense, and this is what I've been feeling is happening all along, that we've got companies that are being financed by like the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation to, first of all, genetically modify known existing samples of coronavirus. And then we've also got other groups being paid by the same people to create a vaccine. So it's like, wait a minute, you're genetically creating a virus. How do we know somebody didn't create this virus, drop it in somebody's bat soup, and just let it rip?
Well, they have a history of doing this with the swine flu and with Zika. They come in like they're the Cape Crusaders at the last minute. Oh, the CDC is going to help us. They're not going to help you. They're going to steal for. It's really incredible when you go back and you connect all the dots. Starting with the Obama administration and how many different ways they were stealing money out the back door, and I have to think there were kickbacks involved here. I mean, it's all about kickbacks, right? Whether it's, oh, I didn't give you money overtly, but covertly, CDC made $25 million contribution to the Clinton Health Initiative or to the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. And that money came from USAID. So it's not really from the CDC, but it's from the CDC, but it's from USAID. But that money originated in the State Department and went through USAID. And It's like,
But
what?
Mike, I don't
This is
understand
massive shell
what is the
game.
CDC doing donating money to anything? I mean, aren't they there to control diseases? Why do they need to donate money to the Clinton Foundation?
They donated money to the Clinton Foundation. At the same time, she was in charge of the purse strings at the State Department, who the State Department gives permission or signs off that, yeah, we need to give money to the CDC through USAID or through Health and Human Services, right? The umbrella parent of the CDC. Mm-hmm. So Hillary and her fools at state are giving the approval for these folks to get money, and then it's coming back into the Clinton Foundation.
Right. That's an awesome graphic of the coronavirus, isn't it? Nice depth of field.
But seriously, right?
That's where the money's going, Mike. They got a lot of people animating coronaviruses. That's not cheap.
Well, what they have a lot of people really doing is freaked out. And then that's when you can really make the dough. When everybody's panicked, then the stage is set for massive larceny.
Right. Money is no object kind of thing, and pass all kinds of.
Did you see? Did you see Trump? He's like, I don't know. I wanted $2.5 billion, but Congress wants to give me $8 billion. I'll take $8 billion. Like what? Just throw it around. Yeah.
Well, what are they going to do with it is the question.
Exactly. Where does it go? So these things, they have a history of ending up in people's pockets. And how do they do that? Well, they launder it into nonprofits. They launder it into charities, and they launder it into medical corporations that are run by their friends.
Right.
And then, guess what? The Clintons get money on the back end. It's a kickback.
It's amazing.
And it's so corrupt. So, like, when I see these guys on TV and Trump's talking about how great they are, I'm shaking my head. I'm like,
why is he saying that?
Either he doesn't know, or it's just so corrupt that he has to kind of go along with it because it's like, look, I got to pick my battles in the CDC. I'm not gonna die on that hill, so to speak. You know, these guys are.
But this is a big deal, Mike, because this was addressed in Del Bigtree's movie Vaxxed. And, you know, here is an article from Reuters from 2009 talking about the former CDC head with this dopey grin landing a vaccine job at Merck. Now, the movie Vaxxed is all about how CBS spiked the story of a scientist at the CDC delivering them information that a particular vaccine was causing injuries, and the CDC was covering it up. The fact that this didn't become the biggest scandal in the world still amazes me. And I mean, Adam Schiff has been getting that movie kicked off of Amazon and other places. It's terrible.
This is just one flunky. Gieberding? Is it Gieberding? Is that a name? Gieberding?
Dr. Gerberding,
right? There's a long list of this, like a rogues gallery, and they put people in charge of this CDC, right? People who are tied into WHO, one of the most corrupt organizations you could ever, scare up. And when they make statements, World Health Organization, about this is going to be a pandemic, they must be licking their chops at all the money that's going to come in to their coffers for them to try to, quote unquote, tamp this down or address it. And then they could distribute that money to more of their friends and stuff like that. If anybody out there, I guess the theme of tonight's show, when we get into later, if anybody out there thinks that these people are here to help you, you really need to adjust your thinking.
Right.
That's not what they're here to do. Historically, they haven't done that. Now, just like the Justice Department, they keep up a great facade, whether it's on television or movies, hype, Hollywood hype, TV hype, Dick Wolf style hype about how great they are, but behind the scenes they're screwing you, making a lot of their friends money, a lot of money.
Yeah, millions.
And pretending, like the CDC's pretending that they going to protect you, right? If they were really interested in protecting you right now, they would have these test kits available. They wouldn't be behind the curve. And this isn't something that hospitals and doctors have been asking for weeks. They're saying, hey, you need to beef up your situation here with these supplies, get these things out so we can test for these folks that come into our emergency rooms so they know exactly how many people have this. Okay.
Mike, what do we know about the CDC? I mean, it's not, is it a government thing? Is it a private thing? Is it like the Fed for medicine? I mean, what the hell is it exactly? Why is it giving money to the Clinton Foundation?
Why not?
Exactly. Yeah, best way to steal it.
No, listen. It's government. Okay. It's out of Atlanta. And you see a lot of problems coming out of Atlanta, right? Historically with the government, a lot of these Yates is from Atlanta and Christopher Wray's from Atlanta, and they're all tied into the Atlanta legal scene, right? Very liberal city, okay? Liberal apparatus. You have major tenants in the Department of Justice coming out of Atlanta. You have the CDC in Atlanta, and then there's a lot of tie-ins to New York. They want to take people from New York who were in the Clinton cabal and put them in charge of the CDC, like Dr. Friedman, who ran it during the Obama administration, previous to Trump. But this is a government operation, and again, it is largely meant to make you think that they're doing something. And there's billions being moved around in a shell game to enrich I call them the beautiful people, the rich and famous. And not a lot of people realize that because, again, folks just don't have time to tackle this stuff. So they look to other folks like myself and yourself to break it down and say, hey, wait a minute, there's not much more to this than we realize. It's very simple, really, bro. Just follow the money.
Now, wait a minute.
Just follow the money.
Now, wait a minute. So I just typed in who funds the CDC, and this is extremely interesting. It says right here, as a private 501c3 public charity, the CDC Foundation receives charitable contributions and philanthropic grants from individuals, foundations, corporations, universities, NGOs, and other organizations. So, in other words, this is essentially the same type of thing as the Clinton Foundation. It's one of these screwy. So here's the CDC Foundation. That doesn't seem to be the same as the CDC, but this is a little bit
of different. Something. It's different, but they're all, again, look. I told you earlier today we talked, right? And we'll get into this later. I've come to realize now, 35 years of doing this stuff, I don't know how many thousands of cases I've been part of, different pieces of sometimes little pieces of cases, sometimes big pieces of cases, sometimes the entire case. Some of the most sophisticated fraudsters you'd ever want to meet.
Or not want to meet.
No, actually, you do want to meet them because they're very interesting people. And this is going to sound crazy, right? The real criminals are more honorable than these people. Because when you sit down and interrogate somebody and you have them by the balls, right, and they have nothing to lose and they know they're caught,
yeah,
they talk their ass off.
There's like an honesty there. There's a real
there's an honesty there, and they're like, yeah, but they respect that you put the work in to catch them, right? So they reciprocate that, like, oh, how do you? And then you trade information. Oh, how'd you figure that out? And then you ask them, hey, no, I'm serious. And you ask them, what really bothers me? How did you pull this off? And then they tell you that you're going back and forth. They know, like.
And Mike, we're putting together a crew for something in Newark. What are you doing on Saturday?
No, but what I'm saying is, okay, these people are interesting in real life. Now, how they're portrayed on TV is like, they always want to be the villain. In real life, when you got them nailed, whether it's especially financial fraud, right? I think of some really big cases you've seen on American Greed that we worked on before they got to the stage of where the FBI came in and you deliver when you're working on private cases for corporations and stuff, you deliver all this stuff on a silver platter to the FBI so they they come in and can do a slam dunk and they all look great. But, the work is done before it even gets into the hands of the FBI because you want to make sure that they cover everything. Sometimes they're thin on resources, or sometimes the guys
Brain
investigating
power.
a case aren't as adept at certain things that you might be. So you deliver things on a silver platter. But when you talk to these guys, there is, as crazy as it sounds, there's a level of honesty and respect. Now, with politicians, forget about it. It's just deceit, cover up. The cover up is always worse than the crime, right? But the cover up is the game in D.C., whether it's the CDC or the DOJ. It's all about the cover up because none of them are going to go down. And you find, this is where you find a really strange bedfellows. Are we running out of time?
Keep going.
The strange bedfellows is your buddies, your GOP buddies, who you see on TV and who you think are the trumpeters of truth, justice, and the American way. They're the ones who cover up for these crooks too.
Right. I think
so
you're
when
talking
I say
about
protection,
Devin Nunes, Sean Hannity.
I'm talking about all of them. I'm talking about all of them. Lindsey Graham, all these guys going back, McCain, all these, and they're all part of it because none of them do anything, and they all rubber stamp the fraud and corruption, right? And so you're better off dealing with criminals because at least when they're caught, you can have a sit down,
right?
Like a proffer, and they know they're caught and it's up, and then it's just a game of, okay, well, how can I cooperate so I don't have to do a lot of time in federal prison, right? Who can I give up, and how can I help you cut corners on your case so that you don't have to use a lot of government resources, that kind of thing. But these guys are all in it together, and they will all cover for each other. That's why I've been calling it a protection racket, and it really is. I mean, and Trump, okay, Trump's first appointment of CDC director, right? You're like, okay, this Friedman guy under Obama, and he was a Hillary crony from New York, and they were pumping a lot of money and kickbacks into the coffers of the Democratic friends. This is the CDC, the folks that are supposed to be giving test kits and protecting you and working on vaccinations and things like that, and coordinating and monitoring potential pandemics. They're all moving money around out the back door into their friends' pockets, right? So you figure, Trump comes in, get rid of this Friedman guy, a guy who had 20 years sketchy history in health management. He's just a robot. And then Trump appoints this woman. Then she has to resign because of similar scandals. It's like, wait a minute.
Wait a minute. So this guy's having a Me Too moment here at the CDC. It's unbelievable. I don't understand. I'm so busy all day. What the hell are these people doing in their jobs that they have all this free time to sexually harass people? They should be figuring out these diseases.
Friedman got jammed up, for, I think, molesting. Was it a minor?
Whoa.
Okay, so this is the director of the CDC gets jammed up for molesting a minor. I'm just going from memory, okay? But as bad as that sounds, okay, as bad as this is going to sound, that's probably a cover for other crimes.
Right.
Like, he was so bad, they cooked this thing up and say, look, let's say he molested somebody, and then it would be like, he was a complete maniac, he was molesting people allegedly or whatever.
That's the limited hangout, though, right?
Well, he was molesting people. So what do you expect? He was a complete maniac. No. He was a complete maniac and put there for a reason. And then the sexual assault would be a cover. Mm-hmm. So they could
pull that ripcord at any moment that they need to.
You focus on that. You're like, what do you expect? The guy was a bad apple. So you're focusing on the Me Too thing because that's far more egregious than just ripping off some tax money. I mean, this is America. Everybody steals money in the government. But you focus on that while there's a mountain of fraud that he was responsible for implementing, monitoring, making sure everybody got paid, right? And that's what everybody focuses on, the sex stuff, because It works. Sex sells. Okay. And then he's out. He's whisked out. Obama's out. It's a nice little. They tie everything up in a nice little bow. This is how they cut deals behind the scenes. Well, this Friedman guy in the CDC is fairly corrupt. How can we tie this up? Oh, we need a sex scandal. Make everything change gears. Does that make any sense?
Makes a ton of sense, Mike, but now we are pretty close to out of time, and we're going to be heading over to our sponsor-exclusive segment of the show on patreon.com/TruePundit and patreon.com/CrowdSourceTheTruth, or subscribestar.com/crowdsourcethetruth. Mike, I think the show has been going really well each week. It's a great way for people to support you and your crew at True Pundit. I know a lot of people have been listening to your podcast. It's on iTunes, it's on Google Podcasts and Spotify, and it's basically all over everywhere. You've had a ton of great interviews. Now, wait a minute, this is new. Is this Zach with the top Google engineer? I didn't see this yet.
That was me and VM shooting the shit about. It's a bonus. That was a bonus one I threw up there on Sunday. On some Sundays, I'll throw up a bonus one something old that I've done that's been laying around. I'll get to putting Zach Voorhees up there eventually, but. We have another one. I don't know if it's, I've been on the road working on this Clinton story. It's massive. Just the entire fraud, the government fraud. So I don't even know if the podcast is going to be out tomorrow. It could be out the next day. So I don't know, because I literally just got back in, and you know how traveling is when you're talking.
Yeah,
a lot of these old school feds won't talk on the phone. So you got to get off your ass and you go talk to them. And I don't blame them, because what they have to say is fairly valuable. So you gotta jockey around.
And they know what's up with the phones. They don't want to be like Pete Buttigieg and leave a voicemail for the wrong person. That's like, isn't this guy 37? That's the last person to do that to me was Art Carney, and he was like 90, literally. Art Carney called me and left a message on my voicemail in the 1990s. It was hilarious. But Mike, we're out of time. We're going to get into all these stories on TruePundit.com during our segment on the sponsor-exclusive segment on Patreon and Subscribestar. So I'll see you there in just a little over 5 minutes.
All right, cool, bro. Good stuff.
Thanks, everybody, and thanks for watching. If you're not already a sponsor, get on there. We got a lot to talk about tonight. We can't do the show without you guys. Thanks for watching.